How much of the current left critique of figures like Mandami and Planner Alex comes from an internet native political culture that values purity and callouts over coalition and pragmatism?
I mean, I think most of it, but the one thing we have to keep in mind is that the what happens on the internet and those kind of call out people is very important in the same way that it allowed Mamdani and Graham Plattner to emerge as viable candidates. You know, their campaign managed to harness social media so effectively, and that's something that Andrew Cuomo admitted and regretted. Uh, that means we have to also acknowledge that it could have the opposite effect. Um, it can it can derail campaigns in the same way. And you know, both major parties are starting to realize this. The Republicans already have, of course, they harnessed their social media very effectively during the Trump campaign, and they still maintain it, even though even though the sort of guard of the right wing media is changing. So like Nick Fuentes is becoming, moving up the space. Charlie Kirk is out, you know, by default.
But Charlie Kirk, that's interesting you say that. As far as media goes, I mean, he's bigger than this show, but he wasn't that big as far as the right wing media goes because he actually was out in the street trying to build something with Turning Points USA. Um, do you think Nick Fuentes is trying to fill the actual political void, or is he just filling a media space?
No, I think what the right benefits from is they have multiple Charlie Kirks. So you're right. I mean, his reach wasn't as big as it it could or should have been, um, but you get enough of people like that with slightly differing views, and you put them together, it creates a pretty big base. Um, think about the Trump coalition that won. It wasn't just Charlie Kirk and his line. It was Christian Wright. It was Nick Fuentes and all those online guys, and Andrew Tate and all those. The whole manosphere backed him. Joe Rogan people. When you get enough of those influencers together, it can move continents. You know what I mean? And so I think that means that yes, we could say the the criticism of Mamdani and Plattner has really been uh, uh, was it what's the word I'm looking for? It's really been pretty vitriol online, but it still matters in that sense, um, because those are primarily the people that vote too, the people who are online perpetually. And even in the comments here, there are people that say Mamdani but not Plattner, and yada yada. And I guess my purpose for seeing some kind of importance in doing a show like this is that these elections are on the horizon right now,
Mhm.
and I want to ask your audience. That includes also the black critics who are in the chat. I mean, they include. I'm including everybody here,
Mhm.
whether you're a regular listener or not, to ask them. Uh, what is their minimum program in terms of what they're trying to achieve in the country?
Mm.
Because if your sights are only on the maximum program, this sort of broad term liberation, right? I'll use that term because it's one that people use. Liberation of all peoples. That's your maximum program. How do you expect to get there? um, because from the looks of it, from the way that power currently operates in this country, if you only keep the maximum program in mind, you're not really going to achieve anything. And that's something that the right knows, and that's something that if you look at the way that Trumpism and the right has emerged, it's something that they were really good at. They sort of set the agenda in the first Trump campaign. They worked out a lot of kinks, and there were a lot of people on the right who were very unhappy with
Yes.
how Trump one worked because they didn't think it went far enough. It wasn't their maximum program. But now, after years of first Trump won and then the failures of Biden, slowly turning the Supreme Court, the way that it did, now changing the electoral map. I mean, this is a long-term plan that if the right were as subject to these kind of purity tests that the left is, they wouldn't have been able to achieve it at all.